What's up, and welcome to the Nothing But Net Worth podcast, where we have conversations with prominent coaches, athletic directors, and NIL athletes discussing critical topics around financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and much, much more. My name is Hassan Thomas, former student athlete and current promoter of all things financial wellness. And today, we have former track and field star at the University of North Texas and current athletic director at the University of North Texas, Miss Tori Clark. How are you? How are you, superstar?
Hey man, I am big chilling on this good old hump day. Super excited to be here. Super excited I get to chill with you, rock with you for the next hour or so. We can go ahead and just get it popping.
You already know that's how we like to do. We have a segment on our show that we like to start off with called the financial coin toss. So I'm going to ask you a few either or questions just to see where your head's at, all right?
All right, let's go.
All right. So we're talking about, especially for these NIL athletes, the ability for them to make money, the ability for them to actually profit off their name, image, and likeness. So, in your opinion, do you think it's more important about how much money that they can make or how much money that they can keep?
It's about how much money you can keep. Because at the end of the day, you make it, As a grown adult, we already know. It don't matter about what that gross is. It's about what that net is, what I'm taking home.
Come on.
That's what I got to spend, because it doesn't make sense if you saying like, hey, I'll make $100,000. But do you really make $100,000? No, you make it more so like 80, 70. This depends. So it's all about like how much can you keep from your efforts. Because at the end of the day, like that's like saying for student athletes, like, yeah, you won the conference championship, but do you have something to show for it? Do you have like a medal? Do you have a ring? Do you have something like that? Like, so I'm gonna say it's about how much they can keep.
And I love that. I love that because you got to think about it. Boom, you done made 100,000 from your NIL deal. You graduate now, and unfortunately, you didn't make it. Like 98% of people, you didn't make it to the professional level. And what do you have to show for those NIL activities you've done? Did you spend all of that 100,000 that you made from NIL, or the 500,000? Did you spend it all? And now you're starting at rock bottom,
right?
When you could have been setting yourself up for success by not spending. Like, the thing is, we gotta think about it. If we was in a position, we gonna spend something. You know what I mean? We can't get on here and act like we're not gonna spend something. But the balance, of okay, let me spend this, let me start my business with this, and let me invest or save for my future, so I can be straight when I graduate and start with a leg up. Compared to blowing 500,000, I'm popping for 2-3 years. I don't make it to the league, and then who am I? I'm not a football player anymore. I'm not a basketball player anymore. I'm not a track star anymore. Now who am I? Having to deal with that transition is tough. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely so, and especially for the fact that like whenever you're like that space, especially with the NIL space, it's only gonna last for so long. Because definitely when you get out into the working world, you are now starting at rock bottom. And let me tell you, moving fees, like all of that, like you want to make sure that you gotta listen. You want to make sure you got a little nest egg, because the worst hood is adulthood. I don't care what nobody tells you. Like that sucker is expensive, and so you want to make sure that
I can't let that slide.
Adulthood is the worst hood. Like nobody preps you. They tell you like, hey, you should probably know this, but for real, especially in the fact that as we get older and as time goes on, it just gets harder and harder. Because if you look at it, like 100K today is not the same as 100K like 30 years prior. So we can only imagine that it's going to be a little bit harder and harder as time progresses. So I just tell my students, like, make sure you got a little nest egg, because whenever you start your job, you sign that contract for September 1, but you're not getting paid till October. Come on. We're gonna have a couple nickels to rub together to make sure we good for September.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I love how we're kind of painting the picture, because it's one thing to just give these students, the information, but we got to paint the picture in real life. Like, hey, if you don't do these things, you could be starting, like you said, at rock bottom. But before we dive too deep into the NIL and into these student athletes, I want to take it back onto your journey
Okay.
You know, where you got your stuff, because I feel like with every athlete, with every entrepreneur, there's a certain turning point in our life where like, okay, I can take this to the next level, or I'm gonna have to find another career path.
Mm-hmm.
So take us back to high school. Take us back to high school where you knew that you could take your track and field athleticism to the next level. What was that defining moment for you in high school?
Man, the final moment had to actually be it had to be junior year at regional championships, and it was cool because I was like, I always loved sports. Like sports was my outlet. It was more so in a way where I could be competitive and where I could, have a goal and objective to meet. And so during that time, for when we were at Abilene Christian, it's
Yep.
cold, it's wet. And for me, like I've been competitive, but at the time I was junior and everybody else was like seniors. And at that time I was like, well, I'm kind of like doing it by myself. So I was pretty okay, pretty average. And then all of a sudden I just like I just launched one. So I did discus. And
Okay.
so I just launched on real far. And I was like, oh snap, like I can make it to state. And then I was like, huh, okay. And I was like, well, what's next after high school? Like I want to make sure that I'm continue to go. And then my coach was like, hey, listen, you're actually out here competing at a really high level. You can actually go to
Yeah.
college doing this. I said, I can go to college to go play? Say less. I said,
So was
oh, I
that
can.
senior year or was that still junior year when you were
That
talking
was
to the coach?
that was junior year. That was junior year that I
Okay.
was focused on that. And then it didn't come to fruition until I actually like made it happen like senior year at the regional track meet again. And because junior year I placed fourth, and for state at the time you had to place top two, and then
Okay.
yeah, senior year I ended up like winning the regional championship. So then I got to go to like Austin, which was hot. It was just so hot, and
Yeah.
it's no shade.
Yep. The sun beating down on you.
Man.
Yep.
And then at that point it was like at that point I had been like talking to UNC for quite a while, and I was like, I'm only getting offered by like one place, a few D1s, a handful of like D2s. I was like, I don't really know which way to go. And then it wasn't until I made the state meet that people really started talking to me for real. And I was like, dang, I got
Yeah.
decisions. So I was like, oh, I can go do this for the free, or at least for some payment. Say less.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Wow. So after you graduated, after the throwing days were over,
Hmm.
how did you handle that transition into that civilian life? And then what advice do you have for other athletes who are going to have to make the transition at some point?
Yeah, it was a tough deal because that I've always been a planner, and as a student athlete, like you're always a planner. You're always told like what the next goal is, and so
For
whenever that
sure.
goal doesn't happen, you're like, dang, what do I do next? So what I did was I was going to be an athletic trainer, and then I figured out like as soon as I'm getting ready to take my boards that yeah, that's not for me. I don't want to do 12-hour days and going to get paid $36,000. Like, absolutely not. So I
Yeah.
was like, so for me, it was more so a fact of like, what space can I be in to where I can help people not feel how I'm feeling right now? Because I felt lost. And I was like, I don't know.
Wow.
I was like, parents told me I got 3 months. We're going to figure this out. They was like, you either get a
Mm-hmm.
full-time job or you go into the military. I was like, no. So,
She gave you two options.
yeah, I was like, shout out to those that are actually in the service. I just knew that was not for me. So I was like, okay, well, what space can I be in to one help student athletes like find their voice, or actually make that transition a little bit smoother after school, and then also two, I want to be in a space where I can still be like my vibrant self, but just really get to talk to people and really figure out what they're struggling with. And that's when my academic advisor came through and said, why don't you do what I do? And I was like, checking grades and check class, like that sounds easy. I was like, that sounds, I got that in my sleep. But
uh,
I
wasn't
still
enough for you.
no, I was like, wait a minute, this is a whole lot. Like I got people's literal like futures in my hands. Like that's crazy. That's wild. But that's just kind of where I started, and the fact that I get to now help student athletes like really understand that the athletic world, the academic world, and the professional world are all like built with the same framework. They just look completely different.
Facts.
That's what I help them do. Like just get something that mimics the lifestyle that you want, or the lifestyle that you're accustomed to. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily focusing on like what job you want. It's what details or what aspects do you want that job to have. Like for
Yeah.
me, I wanted a space where I'm used to talking to people, where I get to, create anything, and also too, where I get to provide advice. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody knew that was what an assistant AD or student athlete development was called. Like nobody knew that's what the job title was, but really
Mm-hmm.
figuring out what kind of details and what kind of characteristics do you want to have inside of like your career. I feel like that's the easier
Gotcha.
question to answer. And then once you have those answers, then you can kind of move, dibble and dabble, and kind of navigate career journey through that way.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Going back to what works for you, what you like to do, what naturally comes to you. You
Hmm.
naturally wanted to talk to people, to communicate, not necessarily, be behind a desk just grading papers all day, but you
Right.
actually wanted to be, making that. I mean, of course, the professors and teachers are making an impact, but
Mm.
as far as you going out there and really creating that change for these student athletes and figuring out, like you said, what's their issues, what's their problems, and how you can become that solution. So
Hmm.
from your time, helping these student athletes, what have you noticed has been some of the biggest issues that they face on the daily?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest issues that they face is they have so many. I feel like I'm about to use like a whole lot of metaphors, but college now is like a buffet.
Yeah.
And what the buffet is like you've got so many options, right? And our students are
Hmm.
so overwhelmed with options that they don't know which one to pick because they don't want to be wrong. And I'm telling them like
Gotcha.
it's okay. I'm like it's not necessarily now telling students like saying, hey, like you got to work for this job for 30 years and do this. Like, no, that's not what it is. It's really about how many experiences can you encapsulate within your life. And if you find some place that you like, you know, make that work because now our students they're not being exposed to all the different industries that are present. Like
Yeah.
the fact that it's someone's literal job to make sure that fans have a great time at a game. Now that's someone's job. Or,
Hmm.
looking at the fact of like, hey, it's someone's job to make sure that the what's it usually like this, like if you're going out on downtown, it's somebody's job to create this app or to manage this app of for parking. Like
For sure.
the smaller little things that they utilize on a day to day basis. Like somebody had to create that. Somebody has to manage that. Somebody got to make sure the customers are happy. So just kind of
Hmm.
giving them an overall deal, which is why we're here at UNT. We have a program that is called like Beyond the Jersey, where our students actually get to
Yeah.
talk to a multitude of people just based off of like what their interests are. And the goal of that program is to make sure that our students understand like, hey, okay, this is something that you've always been interested in, but also let me give you a little taste of other things. So that way, if
Hmm.
one path does not work out, then you've got something else you can lean back on, and you've got something else that you can kind of like dive into.
That's huge. That's huge. And I want to dive back into what you said because it's still in my head. You
Yeah.
said that athletics, academics, and the professional world
Hmm.
are all built on the same, platform, are all built around the same characteristics.
Hmm.
What would you say are some characteristics or qualities that resonate in success in all three of those areas? Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah, so it's all based on like networking and communication and making sure you can reach the objective. Like that's it, no matter
Hmm.
what it is, and also too,
People
just
and
for
getting the job done.
right,
Yep.
right. That is all it is. Like that's literally it. That's it. Because you're out here to accomplish tasks. You're out here to gain experiences, and you already know
Yep.
like those experiences can carry you over into whatever else you want to do. And so it's not necessarily saying the fact of like success is oh well how well can you do something. It's more for the fact of like did you understand the concept?
Gotcha.
Did you grasp the concept of like what this was supposed to do? If you did, show me. And that can be
Hmm.
done through paper, that can be done through tests, that can also be done through how well you lead a project, how well you
Come on.
navigate spaces with your boss. That also helps you understand how well you compete. That's literally it. That I
Yeah.
feel like that kind of gauges the measure of success because as long as you can, like you said, work with people and get the job done, sky's the limit, and that's the hardest
That
thing
is
for folks to
facts.
learn.
That's crazy. We really just broke down success in two words or
I
two
try.
phrases. People and get the job done.
Yep.
You be able to get along with people. People like you, and then you're able to get the job. You're able to receive information and then produce on the field,
Mm-hmm.
on the court, or you're able to produce in the classroom. Able to get that information and produce in your job field.
Right.
You're gonna be successful. You're gonna be, and the last thing I would probably add to that, and it definitely goes into getting the job done, but
Mm-hmm.
just value,
Yep.
providing value. Like that is the biggest thing that I've learned since I graduated
Mm-hmm.
is building up value within myself, so I can then go provide it out to the world. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. I definitely co-sign on that.
Now I really want to jump into this NIL bag. I want to get your thoughts and
All right.
opinions on
Bet.
name, image, and likeness. Let's go.
Yeah.
I want to know, as of now, what's your overall thoughts on NIL? Is it
Hmm.
good for college sports? Is it hurting college sports?
Hmm.
What's your overall thoughts?
No, to be completely honest, I think it's a great thing. It's an amazing thing because you're now giving student athletes the option. And honestly, what I want to hear is hear me clearly. The option. It's not something that everybody has to opt into.
Yeah,
It's not a requirement. It's just a resource that people can use if they want to. So the deal
got you.
is like, student athletes. Just gonna be quite honest with you. The U.S. runs on entertainment,
Hmm.
all forms of entertainment, and
Yep.
so for the students to be able to go out and to be able to promote themselves to people who they don't know in order to gain something, that teaches them business skills.
Come on.
Because at the end of the day, like that is what they need to learn. That is the most real world application that they can have in order to
Yeah.
learn how to negotiate, in order to learn how to market, brand, but also knowing how to manage, how to manage
Hmm.
themselves.
Come on.
And I think that it is also like amazing. Now, on the flip side, like you can't use that. Like I'm not a fan of institutions or other people kind of using like gifts and things as a I don't know what you call it as something to like attract
As an
people.
incentive to come to
Yeah,
the school.
as an incentive to come to the school, but like no. But what is beautiful is whenever you do have an NIL like program and you
Hmm.
providing like all of these resources to teach these students how to maximize this tool. And that's something that I think is really awesome and really great because let's be quite honest, like again, like I said, it's a real world application. Like these students, like I said before, all these things are connected. They're all built on the same framework. And so if a student knows how to maximize and how to navigate NIL, they can
Hmm.
do that whenever they go into their full-time role, whether that is with whatever industry they want to go into. Because at the end of the day, they still gonna have to learn how to read a contract.
Yep.
They're still gonna learn how to negotiate a pay.
Hmm.
And also, too, they still gonna have to know how to do taxes at the end of the day. So I see that is probably the best like real world like taste of life after sport that anybody
Uh,
can like dive into.
and like just as you talked about it, while we were in school, we were student athletes,
Hmm.
and that was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And now you're adding on entrepreneur and influencer. So you
Hmm.
have nowadays with NIL, you have student, athlete, entrepreneur slash influencer. So how
Yeah.
are you seeing the student athletes at UNT dealing with this, abundance of, like you said, options, kind of like that buffet, like you said, but how are they actually dealing with it?
Dealing with the options of like with NIL or dealing with the options of the fact that they have like all these pockets that they have to like dive into.
Yeah, or like you said, all those pockets, student,
Gotcha. Yep.
athlete, entrepreneur, influencer, son, daughter, you know what I mean? It's everything.
I got you. Yeah, no. So I mean, like I said before, it's an option. Right, it's
Hmm.
an option. So those that want to will. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a tough balance. It is. But with anything that you do, you know, you give the thing that needs your most of your attention, the most of your attention, but you can break that up in a sense. So like
Hmm.
as student athletes, we're always told that you are working two full-time jobs when you come to school.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that you have a lot more resources to help you with those things. So, at the end of the day, it's just all about balance. It's really just what
Hmm.
it is, and it's not something that everybody would be perfect at on the first try. It's something that you really have to work at. But all it's doing is really teaching you like what life looks like outside of like sport. So instead of you
Gotcha.
having yes, you have your NIL stuff, you have your athletic life, and then you also have your academic life. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, once you transition, it's really just going to come down to work and household. So at the end of the day, it's really just teaching them how just to navigate the different intersectionalities and the different identities that they have. And let's be
Hmm.
clear, like you're not always operating in those things up front, but
Yeah.
it's a deal. And the thing about it is like we try not to have it to where one identity is greater than the other. We really just try to tell our students like a student athlete, a brother or sister, like that's not who you are. Like that's not the overall essence of you. That's just things to
Yeah.
describe who you are. And so at the end of the day, those things do overlap. And yeah, it can get a little tiring, but also too, I'll just be like, hey, just create space for the things that are important. And if you feel that it no longer serves you, or you feel like, hey, you just can't do it, it's okay to take a step back and to reevaluate. But also
Gotcha.
understand that there are priorities, because you being here to complete your degree is number one. But
Yes,
then also
ma'am.
two, but also two, to compete at a very high level, that's number two. And so
Uh-huh.
to make sure that those priorities aren't changed or aren't altered, or also, but this also
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that the requirements and the expectations are like fully set and fully understood.
Mm-hmm. So, like you said, have those priorities, handle those priorities,
Mm-hmm.
and then make the room for
Mm-hmm.
the local barbecue shop that want to have you
Yep.
come do it in
Yeah.
person engagement. The
Yep.
social media brand that wants you to have you posting this.
Mm-hmm.
Handle those first, the student athlete portion,
Yep.
and then it seems like everything else will play out from
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Got you.
Right
Got you.
on.
Now I have a couple more questions for you.
All right.
Just one of the things that, like I said, even when we first started talking, I noticed your passion to actually help students, not
Mm-hmm.
just while they're at UNT, but preparing them for success after graduation.
Yeah.
So I want to know, do you believe that financial literacy falls into those life skills? And if so, how important is it to actually understand financial literacy, financial education, and money in general?
Yeah, it is extremely important, and it does follow under like the holistic development of a person, because at the end of the day, the two most powerful forms of currency are information and money. Those that have the most
Mm-hmm.
information like make the most money, or they are able to use their money in the best of ways.
Hello,
And
somebody's in here.
and the best way to have that is to know how to make your money work for you. But the second thing that I tell like my students, especially when we're going through some of our financial
Mm-hmm.
education, is the fact that budgeting and money practices, they're not all going to look the same for every individual. It honestly just depends on like what you make, what is it? Not it. Dang, I'm drawing a blank. Where's it hard on a Wednesday? But I was like, what your goals are, and what kind of life do you want to live? Like
Uh-huh.
at the end of the day, as long as you are making more money than you spend, I think that that's fine, no matter what you spend it on. Like that is
Yeah,
your prerogative. As long as you are living below your means or within your means, go for it. Like
I
nobody can tell
love
you
that.
what to do with your money. As long as your bills is paid, you ain't being tracked down by nobody, and you're on
Mm-hmm.
top of it. I say go for it. Doesn't matter what it looks like, and also as long as it's legal. Say it like that.
Come on, come on. Gotta throw that in there for
Yeah,
sure.
as long as it's legal, we're good to go.
But I actually love that you said that, Tori, because I'm in this financial space. I'm interviewing all these financial experts and things.
Hmm.
But that's literally what it boils down to. As long as you are not spending more money than you're making, if your income is up here and your expenses is anywhere below here, the money that you're making compared to the money that you're spending, you are good.
Yep.
Now, there's some things I would like for us to add into it as far as investing for our future to make sure, while we're working hard right now, that
Hmm.
our money is working hard as well. So when it is time for retirement time, we're not 70 at Walmart ringing the bell. You know what I mean? We at home chilling. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
and, and no disrespect to anybody, grandmas, grandfathers who doing that.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, I don't want to do that. At 60,
I got you.
70, I want to be on somewhere beach with my beautiful wife chilling. You know what I mean? That's what I want to do.
Oh,
But it is
same.
personal finance, right? That's why they call it
Right.
personal.
Right. Indeed, indeed. Like I wanna the deal is for me is like I don't wanna have to work, I wanna choose to work.
Come on.
I know in me, I do not want to be cooped up in the house. I'll start like breaking stuff and just doing things. I'm like, no, you know what? Get me out. Get me around some people. But I want that
Yep.
choice, not my requirement.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I just have one final question for you.
All
I
right.
want to know what's next for, it's kind of two questions put in one, but what's next for UNT and their athlete development programs? And then
Yeah.
also, what's next for Miss Tori Clark?
Well, what's next for UNT is this summer we are capping off our third year for our internship program, which helps student athletes like be able to transition to life after sport while focusing on their professional development
Yeah,
within internships that they're matched with. So that is what I got going on cooking up here.
that's
I'm
cool.
super excited to work with Brian Reynolds, who is kind of like the brainchild and the mastermind
Yeah.
behind KS Athlete Transition Program. So I'm super excited about that. And then what's next for me is, I don't know if any listeners are going to the NACTA conference, NACTA convention out in Vegas, but that is what's next for me. I will be
And
moderating.
I'll see you there. And I'll see you
Oh,
there.
talks here. Talks here. I'm so
Come
excited.
on. You know it.
Yeah,
Hey, we gotta do this in person. We gotta run this back in person.
we should. I mean, I'm here for everything. It's perfectly fine
I'm
by
telling
me.
you.
Yeah, but no, I'll be moderating a panel for MOA, and then I'll also be presenting a presentation for N4A. So if you're there, come and check me out. Holla at me. I promise I'll say hi. No problems here.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Tori, for coming on the Nothing But Net Worth podcast and dropping these gems. For all our listeners, take some of the small gems that Tori talked about here today and start to implement them into your life. And I promise you, over time, they will turn to large results. So again, Tori, thank you. And for all our listeners, if you're looking to be educated, motivated, and inspired to not only stay in the game, but to change it, the Nothing But Net Worth podcast is for you. We'll see you next week.